Elite Facts presents
10 amazing facts about Spider-Man you may not have known. In preparation for the upcoming release of Spider-Man Homecoming, we think it's fitting that we should do a video dedicated to the famous web-slinger, a lot like the one we did for Doctor Strange. Here are 10 facts you may not have known about your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
10.
James Cameron's Spider-Man? So, besides the 1970s television series and the interesting Japanese film that was released in 1978, most of us fondly remember the Sam Raimi set of Spider-Man films that were released between 2002 and 2007, although we don't talk about Spider-Man 3 for obvious reasons. Come on, seriously, why does Peter Parker break out into a dance? Sorry, we're going off topic here. Anyway, we almost didn't get these films as originally James Cameron was penning a script of his own that would have focused on Spider-Man's origin story, as if that hasn't been told enough, and would feature variations on the comic book villains Electro and Sandman. This Electro, named Carlton Strand instead of Max Dillon, was a megalomaniacal parody of corrupt capitalists. And instead of Flint Marco's character, Cameron's Sandman, simply named Boyd, was mutated by an accident involving Philadelphia experiment-style bilocation and atom mixing, in lieu of getting caught in a nuclear blast on a beach. The film was planned to have its climax atop the World Trade Center, where Spider-Man would have engaged in a battle with both of the previously mentioned villains. Now bear in mind that this script was copyrighted in 1991. As well as it having Spider-Man revealing his identity to Mary Jane Parker. Considering James Cameron's track record, this film could have been something incredible.
9.
Revealed his identity to the world. So, Civil War was a fantastic introduction to the Marvel Cinematic Universe for Spider-Man. That being said, though, the film was a lot different compared to the comic book in many aspects. One thing in particular is that during the series, Peter Parker actually revealed himself to the world and removed his mask on live television. This major event served as the centerpiece of the story and made a major impact on the world. Luckily, Doctor Strange was able to tamper with people's minds so that they would forget that Parker had revealed himself. This allowed Spider-Man to continue his life fighting crime without having to worry about the people he loves being exposed. Good old Doctor Strange and his Illuminati abilities to control people's minds. That rascal.
8.
No web shooters required. The one thing we took away from the Sam Raimi Spider-Man films was the fact that Spider-Man could shoot webbing organically from his wrists instead of using the web shooters he made, which he is more commonly known for using. This actually transitioned over to the comics at one point, as Spider-Man was actually able to do this. He developed extra glands in his forearms that produced webbing for him to shoot. He had already created his web shooters at this time, so he decided to give them to Mary Jane so she could use them for protection. That's one less damsel in distress for Spider-Man to worry about.
7.
He teamed up with the cast of Saturday Night Live. So we all remember that infamous crossover between Superman and Muhammad Ali, where they both engaged in combat in a boxing match and then fought aliens in the end. Yes, this actually happened. Rest in peace, champ. But did you know that Marvel threw their hand in the whole celebrity guest comic appearance fad as well? So DC got Muhammad Ali's blessing for that crossover. Who did Marvel get? Live from New York, it's Saturday Night Live. Yes, they got the 1974 cast of Saturday Night Live for a crossover entitled Spider-Man and the Not Ready for Primetime Players. The cast at the time included Dan Aykroyd, John Belushi, Bill Murray, Jane Curtin, Garrett Morris, Lorraine Newman, and Gilda Radner. So pretty much you've got Spider-Man teaming up with most of the Ghostbusters and both of the Blues Brothers. If someone could draw that, please, for the love of God, send it to us. Anyway, this comic book was hated by Marvel fans as they believe that the SNL Cast more or less stole the spotlight away from Spider-Man. Admittedly, though, it was awesome to see Stan Lee as the host of SNL in the comic. No matter what, that man has got to have a cameo in whatever Marvel is involved with.
6.
Spider-Man wasn't the first spider superhero Marvel had. So we bet some of you didn't know that Spider-Man wasn't the first spider-based character Marvel had. 1 year before Spider-Man's first comic in 1962, Marvel was busy dipping their toes in the horror and mystery genre with their line of comics called Journey into Mystery. On October 1st, 1961, Marvel released a new issue with the subtitle, "Where Will You Be When the Spider Strikes?" The comic focuses on a household spider that is experimented on using gamma radiation beams. Soon after, the spider begins to develop the intelligence of a human being and grows to massive proportions. Able to speak and even shoot his own web fluid, this man-spider of sorts was killed by the story's end, just in time for the so-called Marvel Age of Comics to begin.
5,
Aunt May almost married into the Mafia. So it's bad enough that Peter Parker's parents lived an incredibly secretive life that was off the rails strange. But Peter Parker later discovered that his beloved Aunt May had her own mysterious past. As a young woman, May had an affair with a handsome gangster named Johnny Jerome, a fact exposed in 1984's Peter Parker The Spectacular Spider-Man Annual number 4. You heard that right.
4,
Spider-Man literally turned into a spider at one point. So remember the previously mentioned fact about Spider-Man being able to shoot webbing from his wrists? Yeah, that was a very strange ability introduced in the Sam Raimi films. However, the way Marvel actually went about giving Peter Parker organic web shooters bordered on the bizarre. In fact, it's downright insane. In the pages of a 6-part adventure that began in The Spectacular Spider-Man number 15 in August of 2004, Spider-Man was mutated into a giant spider when he was kissed by the villainess known as the Queen. Because of this, he looked like he could have been a part of the horror film The Fly. Thanks to writer Paul Jenkins and artists Michael Ryan, Humberto Ramos, and Paco Medina, Spidey spent a brief time as a giant arachnid before he returned to normal, albeit with the ability to produce webbing from his wrists. Thankfully, Spider would go back to his standard web shooters in a reboot of sorts years later, allowing fans to finally stop thinking about their favorite hero's bodily fluids on a monthly basis.
3,
His parents were spies. Up until 1968, 6 years after Spider-Man's first comic, there was pretty much no mention of what had happened to Peter's parents, Richard and Mary Parker, or who his parents even were to begin with. Having been brought up by his Aunt May and Uncle Ben since the debut of the first Spider-Man comic, no one was that interested in Peter's parents, and the occasional photograph or flashback was all anyone saw of them. Well, Marvel decided to blow everyone's minds with the release of the Amazing Spider-Man Annual number 5, when it was revealed that Peter's parents were both CIA agents who were sent on a secret mission and killed in a plane crash. It added intrigue and mystery to the origin of Peter Parker and eventually tied into the larger Marvel Universe, a story point that some fans see as novel and some see as the cheapening of Peter's seemingly ordinary high school student persona.
2,
Peter Parker originally didn't like Mary Jane. For casual fans, you'd probably be shocked by this. I mean, when you talk about love interests in comics, most people's minds instantly think of Spider-Man and Mary Jane. Well, as it turns out, Mary Jane being Peter's high school crush is actually the opposite of true. In reality, Mary Jane Watson was meant to be a running joke in the Spider-Man comics, a girl that Aunt May repeatedly tried to set up with Peter. Peter would continuously turn down any dates, issue after issue, finding excuses to not even see the face of the girl next door. Then, in one fateful issue released in November of 1966, all of that changed as Peter finally saw the face of Mary Jane and heard her speak her iconic line, "Face it, Tiger, you just hit the jackpot." From there on out, the writers couldn't help but keep these two together. In a way, we almost feel sorry for Gwen Stacy.
1,
Michael Jackson tried to purchase Marvel so he could play Spider-Man. Yep, you heard that correctly. The king of pop himself, Michael Jackson, attempted to purchase Marvel during one of Marvel's many financial woes in the 1990s, just because Jackson was a huge Spider-Man fan and really wanted to play him in the movies. He even approached Stan Lee several times about buying the film rights to the character, but to no avail. Realizing his chances of ever getting to play the part were slim by traditional means, he decided to just buy the company instead. I mean, why not? Jackson at this point had purchased the rights to the Beatles music catalog, so what's another $1 billion out of his pocket? Hey, if you want to do something and you have the spare cash to do it, you might as well, even if that something means being Spider-Man.
Don't forget to like us and subscribe for more Elite Facts.